Hello. Okay, so it looks like it's time to get going here. I think we've got everything kind of up and running. We're working on getting this live on Facebook because we had 120 people that registered for this event, and our capacity to hold this is at 100. So if for some reason we do reach our maximum capacity, you should be able to find this. We're also recording this, hopefully, and you should be able to rewatch this later. So I think we've got everything up and running where we need it to be. And right now, it looks like we've got about 55 people on, and more will probably be jumping on as we get started. So this is the first time that I am doing a public live kind of Zoom webinar. I've done private ones for private groups and stuff before, but so bear with me just in case I run into some snags, but I think everything should go pretty smoothly tonight. So I want to first of all thank everybody for your support and interest in this topic, and I'm pretty excited to talk about this tonight. Things are so different these days. We're used to a lot of live classes, and so this is the next best thing we can do. So I hopefully will get more of these up and running as the time goes by, but hopefully we as a community can all get back to normal soon. So with that, because there are so many people that did sign up for this webinar, what I'm going to do is have you hold your questions till the end. We'll address the questions at the end. So if you, as we're going along and I talk about things, if you do have a question, just type that in the chat box. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll go to the questions. I just want to make sure that I have time to get through everything that I planned for today. So with that, let's get started talking about herbal medicine basics. It's a fun topic that I think is really exciting. I have been working with herbal medicine for over 20 years, and it's something I get pretty passionate about. And for those of you that know me, know this is something I love to share with people. And so in this first slide here, you can see a little garden setting, and this is at the Lamb Shop and Wellness Center. It's our medicine garden that we have just outside the shop. And it's a place where I have a lot of classes. We have small groups, big groups. We use it as a community space. We also rent out the area, and we grow a lot of the herbs that we use in our herbal preparations here, and we have other ones that we dry and use just as bulk herbs. And I'm going to get into all kinds of, I think, some fun ideas for everybody that we can start using on a regular basis. So with that, I'm going to jump right in to the first slide. This lovely picture. I always hate pictures of myself, but I put this in here just to remind me to tell you a little bit about my background. For those of you that maybe are just hearing about this for the first time, I'm going to give you a brief little background about myself. So I have a background in biology and a master's in health and nutrition education. And I have taught college level nutrition for 14 years. And I have been studying herbal medicine since about 2000, since year 2000, and we're already in 2020. So those 20 years have really just flown by for me. And I started my clinical practice in 2005. And those that know me through the Lamb Shop, and that is a business that we started on our farm back in 1997, actually 96, the fall of 96. So we've been going for a while. And the last year or so, we've moved into a lot more of the wellness center. So we had a big addition a year ago. And so our wellness center has really expanded in this last year. And as you know, like I mentioned before, again, I really have a passion to teach and share the knowledge with the community, especially in holistic health and wellness, and particularly with plants. So a lot of people ask me, how did you get interested in this to start with? And I think myself, like many other people that have sought some alternative medicine options, they've got a personal story, and I have one as well. And that started with my youngest daughter, Clara. And that was, it was, like I said, about 20 years ago. When she was 4 years old, she got very sick, and she was down to just 28 pounds. And we brought her to a whole variety of people in the medical profession. And really, we just didn't get any answers. We had test after test done. Nobody really could tell us what was going on with her. And my husband and I were getting quite concerned. We actually were afraid that we were coming close to losing her. And that's when we decided to try something out of the box. So we went to an herbalist in Minneapolis, and we brought Clara there, and Clara was sent home with a couple of bottles very similar to this, and they're called tinctures. That's kind of what they look like. And she was sent home with those, and I was instructed to give her some drops under her tongue and do this twice a day. And I thought, okay, this is just another dead end. I tried everything else, but I'll give it a try. And in a few days, we started seeing changes. In a few weeks, things were like significantly different. And within a month or so, it was just amazing the differences that we were seeing. And at that time, I was just really amazed and thought, this is something I need to learn, because I was sent home with some plant extracts of things that were growing outside my backyard. And if they could make that much difference for somebody in my family, I had to learn more, and I had to find out what this was all about. And so that really started my journey, going back to school and going back to lots and lots of training and doing a clinical, a year and a half of clinical training, and just driving back and forth to Minneapolis, getting lots of training. And it was really life-changing for me. And of course, my daughter as well. And today, my daughter is, if any of you have stopped by the shop, she has joined the family business. She's college graduate, will soon be starting her master's degree, and she is doing well. And it's just been really remarkable to see this whole thing turn full circle. So with that, I just want to show you a little bit about the lamb shop for those of you that have never been here. It is a little shop that's on the farm, and it started, my husband and I started by selling lamb because we were sheep farmers. And so that's how we got the name. But as you can see, it is so much more than just lamb. And what we have is, we've got the fresh grass-fed meats that we raise on the farm, the lamb. We've got beef, chicken, turkeys at Thanksgiving time. And then we've got a whole wall here of a variety of bulk herbs, which is really quite a selection. We probably have, if you're looking for something, we've probably got it. And we also have health food. We've got herbal teas, other herbal products that I make. We have local goods by local artists. We really have quite a variety of things. And it's really a fun spot. If you get a chance to come, we would love to have you come. And then for our wellness part of the business, I used to be the only practitioner for many years. And in this last year, with the addition that we built, we have been joined by a great team of other wellness practitioners. So we have massage therapy, we have physical therapy, I do the herbs and nutrition, we have Reiki and energy work, and we're still growing. We have an open office that we're looking for another practitioner to come and join our team. So if you know somebody, or you're happen to be a practitioner yourself who's looking for something kind of interesting, check us out, see if we're a good match. So that's our wellness team. And on the next slide here, so with all of that background, let's dive into what you came here tonight to talk about, and that is herbal medicine. So what exactly is herbal medicine? Officially, it is the study or practice of medicinal and therapeutic use of plants. And the plants can be any part of the plant. The plant could be a root, it could be a bark, it could be a flower, a leaf. Really, it's quite a range of the botanical parts that we use for herbal medicine. And herbal medicine has really been around for a long time. It goes back thousands of years, and it is something that it works just as amazing today as it did all those years ago. A lot of medical people these days say, oh, there's not enough research about the herbs. That's not true. There is a ton of research. Every week I get a thing in the email that has at least 50 to 100 studies of herbal research on all the different herbs. And so there is a ton of research on there. And the best research really is what happens in real life and how the history goes. And so if you look back, you will see that herbal medicine is here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. It's actually becoming a lot more popular and growing in leaps and bounds in popularity today. And I really think the reason why people are drawn to herbal medicine and simple home remedies is because it's so easily accessible. It's really affordable, oftentimes free if you look at plants in your backyard, which we're going to talk about today, or even your kitchen cupboard. There's a ton of medicine in your kitchen cupboard that you might be overlooking. And it's very effective. It really is effective. And you don't have to worry about the side effects that often come with modern medicine. So really, for many of us, working with the plants is a connection to nature that we really enjoy. And people have always had this connection to nature. And I think herbal medicine is a really good way to reconnect. And, you know, we've gotten so far away from this with technology, and we just get so busy in all of the things in the world today that it's kind of a really neat thing to go back in time and find out what our ancestors used, what has been passed on from generation to generation with the ancient teachings. And really with all the science we have to back it today, there is a lot of comfort level that you can feel, you know, very comfortable using it. And so I think it's an exciting topic, and lots of things you can do just really as a home usage, as just family medicine. And so what are some of the types of remedies or medicines that actually are made from plants? There's all kinds of things. Everything from teas to something we call tinctures. And tinctures, you know, there's a picture right up here in the corner of what a tincture is. Essentially, it's a plant extract. So it's a bit of plant material with some alcohol added, typically maybe some glycerin, and then that substance, whether it's the alcohol or glycerin, it pulls out all the medicinal qualities that are found in the plant. And it's pretty remarkable because it has a nice long shelf life as well if you use alcohol. So herbal medicine can also be found in foods. So we always hear about use your foods as medicine, and that is so true. And we'll talk about some ways that you can eat your way to health. And another form of herbal medicine is the syrups. And by this, I'm talking about like elderberry syrup, which is like incredibly popular these days, or cough syrups. There's a lot of great recipes and easy things that you can put together for those types of things. And then there's like pastilles or lozenges. Herbal vinegars are another really great way to incorporate some of the herbs as medicine. We also have infused honeys. We'll be touching on a couple of those tonight. Then there's oxymels, there's poultices, compresses, all kinds of things where you apply your herbs topically on your skin or you take it internally. Another one that people often forget about is hydrotherapy. And hydrotherapy is a great way to really have a relaxing type of herb too, like with your baths. All right, so we'll move on here and talk about some really, I guess throughout this entire presentation, one of my main goals is to really include some things that you can incorporate into your daily life, just simple things. And so as we look at some things that you can do, like I mentioned before, really getting out in nature and how important it is to get out in nature. And especially now during this stay-at-home order that we have and the lovely spring weather that's going to be coming soon, and I guess the nice spring days that we've had, take some time to go out for a walk. And just don't go for a walk just looking straight forward. Look down, look at your feet, look up above at the sky, watch the buds coming out of the trees, and see if you can identify maybe some plants that you haven't seen before. You might not know what they are, but take a picture of them and see if you can identify them maybe later. Or you can even sit down and do a little sketch of it, and just really get to know what's around you. And that's one of the things that I found as I teach my herbalism classes. People say they never look at plants the same way that they did before the classes. It really gives you a different understanding of what's out there, why it was put on this earth to begin with, what was its purpose, and how can it help us, and how can it all work together in the total holistic picture of things. So that's one thing I highly recommend to do. And just as you're out there and you listen to the birds and you smell the plants and you start to touch them and feel them, you learn about the plant and what kind of qualities it has and how that relates to how you can use it medicinally. And then secondly, the other thing that I really want to do is talk about some wild foods and how you can incorporate some foods into your life. And we'll talk about some very simple things that are really easy to identify. And the other thing that we'll talk about are like herbal teas. What are some easy herbal teas that you can make? Because they're power-packed with nutrients, and they can really be used medicinally. If you use them as a medicinal dosage, you just drink it more often. And it's amazing why our body really needs these botanical substances. So let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so we're going to dive right into talking about plants. And I thought Creeping Charlie would be a really good plant to start off with. When I start talking about Creeping Charlie, people start saying, oh, I hate Creeping Charlie. It's awful. What spray can I use to kill it? Well, I say I love Creeping Charlie, and this is why. Creeping Charlie really has quite a purpose. Its Latin name is Lycoma hederaceae. And another name for this plant is called ground ivy. It's actually a member of the mint family. And one of the ways that you can tell that something is a member of the mint family is if you take a stem and you kind of roll it between your fingers, and it's a square stem. Every member of the mint family will have a square stem. Now, things in the mint family provide a lot of different, they do a lot of different things. A lot of times they're relaxing and cooling and things like that for people. Creeping Charlie has a ton of medicinal purposes and potential things that you can use it for. And it's one that a lot of people can identify easy. It kind of has a distinctive smell to it. Like if you're mowing the lawn and you run over some Creeping Charlie, you'll remember that smell, how it smells, and you'll start to identify it. It's kind of a bit of a minty scent, but a little different type of a mint. If you taste it a little bit, it actually has a bit of a metallic taste to it. And what that metallic taste is, it's loaded with iron. And so what you're tasting actually is the element iron. And so that's kind of interesting, I think. So one of the best things that I think Creeping Charlie is known for is its kidney and its lung function. So if there's some kidney disorders of a variety of types, Creeping Charlie might be a really good match. It's also highly known to be great for the lymphatic system. So your lymphatic system is all the way from the tip of your head to the bottom of your feet. It is a very complicated system, and it's all over your body. And the lymph system helps pull out toxins from your body, and it really is something that is very important, especially these days with all of the environmental things we're being bombarded with, like Wi-Fi, all the technology, the glyphosate and all kinds of stuff like that. Our body needs to get rid of that toxic material. And so you have to keep your lymphatics open, and Creeping Charlie is a great way to do this. A lot of people that I know use Creeping Charlie at the first sign of getting like a head cold or maybe a sinus infection, or a little bit where they start getting like a chest cold starting in their lungs. And this is a really good herb to use. Now, if you look at the Creeping Charlie leaf, it's right over here. This leaf happens to be a little more pointed at the tip than a lot of them, but as a shape, it almost looks like an upside down heart. And it also looks kind of like the shape of like your lungs might look. And then if you look really, really closely and you look at the veinage, the vein patterns on the leaf, it almost looks like bronchial tubes within your lung system. And this is one of the things that a lot of people learn about herbs when they're first starting. A lot of times a plant will have certain indicators, if they're called plant signatures, and the plant oftentimes looks like things that it might be useful for, or it looks like maybe an organ system or body system, or has a certain color, and all of those have indicators on how you can use it. And all of this information was compiled over years and years of experience, the thousands of years that people have worked with it and kept logs and information of what these plants worked for. And so I think it's just like an easy clue for people to remember things. So some people say that the Creeping Charlie leaf looks like the shape of a kidney, and also your kidney is really about the size of your ear, and so the ear and the kidney are really, really related to each other in Oriental medicine. And so if you have problems with your ears, like say you have middle ear issues, you get a lot of earaches, or you have ringing of the ears, tinnitus, oftentimes that's an indicator that your kidney is out of balance. And along with that, your sinuses are an indicator that the kidney is out of balance. So there's some keys that always indicate kidney imbalances. So you might have ear things going on, you may have a low energy or lower back pain, and then there's usually something correlating to the ears. So those are all clues that you put together to try to find out where your body imbalances are, and then you just try to balance them back. And that's really what herbalism is. It's taking a body system that's out of balance and balancing it back with different types of herbs. Another thing that Creeping Charlie is really great for is detoxing metals from the body. So Creeping Charlie has been known to be useful for pulling out like cadmium and lead and mercury from the body. And it has a very interesting history, if you look at it, about metal detoxification. Years and years ago, when they used to put lead in paint, and the painters would paint the outsides of houses, sometimes painters would come down with something called painter's colic, and that was just an accumulation of the lead in the paint. And the painters those days knew that if they did some ingested Creeping Charlie in one way, whether it was tea or a tincture form, that this would help, and it would really help get rid of the painter's colic. Now, what you would find, which I find even more interesting, is that Creeping Charlie often grows alongside these old houses that use the lead paint. And so as the paint would wash off through the years, the creeping Charlie would be there. And they've done some studies, and there was a particular study done at the University of Wisconsin, I believe, back a while ago, and they measured to see what happened with this lead that was coming off paint and from the houses. And so they took the leaves of the creeping Charlie and did tissue tests of it to see, because they knew that the creeping Charlie would pull lead out of the soil, and they wanted to know, well, where is this lead going? Is it going in the leaves of the stems or the flowers? And they checked it, and they couldn't find any way that there were any traces of lead were really in the plant materials. So it had a way of, the plant had a way of actually dissipating the lead altogether. So I think that's pretty interesting. And the other thing about creeping Charlie that I think is really interesting too is it was traditionally used as a cancer remedy. And anybody who knows anything about creeping Charlie knows how crazy it grows. It grows like cancer. It just spreads and spreads and spreads all over. So that would be what we call another plant signature. So how can you take creeping Charlie? So I would say if you've got a lawn that hasn't had any chemicals applied to it, I would pick some creeping Charlie and make yourself some tea. And this is what you do. I like to pick it when it's in full bloom with these little purple flowers, and which won't be long from now. It's just going to come out like crazy. And so pick some, wash it off really good, put it in a jar, a mason jar. Let's say you do like a pint or something. Fill it up about half full or loosely really full, and then pour some hot water over it. Let it steep for about 15 to 20 minutes and go ahead and drink it. If you like some raw honey with it for extra flavor, you can do that too. And this is a really good way to cleanse the lymphatic system, work on kidney support, lung support, and it's loaded with all kinds of minerals and vitamins as well. So that's all about creeping Charlie. Let's move on to dandelion. Now this is another one that I think everybody knows about. So dandelion is pretty interesting because it is not a plant that's native to Minnesota, or actually native to North America at all. It was brought by the European settlers. They knew how important it was for their health, and so they brought seeds along as they started settling here in the New World. And obviously we've got it all over the place now. It spreads like crazy, and so many people get annoyed by having the dandelions in their yard in the early spring, and they are digging them up and digging them up. Well, I just embrace them. They only really last for that little phase in the early spring, and then you really don't see them much throughout the main summer, and then they get a little boost again in the fall when it cools down. So there's a ton of things you can do with dandelion. Now, it's a very nutritious food to start with. It is known as a bitter spring tonic that helps stimulate digestion. It stimulates the liver, the gallbladder, so bile is produced appropriately, and the pancreas, and it's also a really, really good blood cleanser. It cleans the blood. One famous herbalist, her name is Maria Trebin, and she gave a recommendation that I pass on every year to people, and it's about picking dandelion stems. So what you do is you pick the stems. So just pick a dandelion flower, go the stem all the way down to where the leaves join. You can pull off the blossom. And so what you need to do is pick 7 stems. It doesn't have to be 7, it could be 10 or whatever, but 7 to 10 stems. And you take them and you chew them up really thoroughly and swallow them. And you do this for a week. and that is your spring tonic gallbladder cleanse. It's a great way to break up gallbladder stones and really just cleanse your blood. And this is what people used to do. They picked these bitter leaves and they did all of this stuff for a springtime tonic, and it really helped clear the body of all of the things that they had to, you know, survive through the winter. You know, think about how the weather would have been for the people that settled the country. How did they make it through these Minnesota winters? They had to eat lots of heavy foods and lots of root vegetables and meat that maybe was dried with salt, and they ate all these heavy foods, so they needed to clear their body and really cleanse it out afterwards. So that's why they ate so many bitter greens in the spring. Another thing that I think is really interesting too is you can take the dandelion stem and you can break it, and then you've got that little milky stuff that's in there. Some people take that sap and they put it on warts, and it for some people it works really good at clearing that up. It's also been used to apply to age spots, calluses, and it helps eradicate that. So that's another use of the dandelion. Another thing that I always have some of my herbal students do is pick the dandelion blossoms, and then you kind of wilt them overnight so you get rid of some of that excess moisture, and tear them up a little bit, and you put them in a little jar and you add some extra virgin olive oil to it, and you make this wonderful infused oil for massage. It really helps to soften the muscles and just alleviate any muscle aches and pains. So those are some of the medicinal uses for dandelion, and dandelion is primarily known as a liver gallbladder remedy. So it's often used for that. Okay, so let's talk about eating dandelions. So really all parts of the dandelion are edible, and this is one of the funnest plants to really eat in the early spring. So you can pick the young tender leaves in the spring before they get bitter, and you can pick those and you can add them to salads. You can also cook them up. There's a ton of recipes out there. I do some wild food workshops and that kind of thing that we'll talk about in a little bit. But dandelions are a really good thing. So you can use the leaves and the young shoots. By the young shoots, I'm talking about, you know, this little part right here, if you can see where my arrow is, that is a really great part to eat. It's pretty tasty, so you can just cut that off and eat that. The young roots themselves can be dug and washed, and you can use them as part of a root vegetable too, and mix that, and you can cook that up and roast it. Another thing you can do with the roots is you can dry it, and it's made into a coffee substitute. And there's a product on the market called Dandy Blend, and it uses dandelion roots. And that's a great way to cleanse your liver on a regular basis. And so as far as the flowers go, there's a lot of different things you can do with that as well. So if you wanted just to pick the flowers and with the sepals on, the green part right here, you can pick those, clean them up nicely, make sure there's no bugs, and mince up some garlic and add some coconut oil and just stir fry it with a little bit of sea salt and use it as a side dish. That's pretty delicious that way. You can also just pull out the petals themselves, and you can use that in salads. You can add them to vegetables. You can also, you know, add them to cookies or muffins. They make it a really fun thing, and they're also adding a ton of nutrients too. Dandelions are loaded with calcium. So if you're looking for a food that's rich in calcium, dandelions are the way to go. You can also make dandelion wine. I remember my grandpa used to do that. He had jugs of dandelion wine that he used to make. So there's some fun things that were kind of passed on to different generations. So let's go on to another plant here. So self-heal is another plant that I wanted to introduce to you. Now self-heal, it's also called heal all, known as that. Its Latin name is Prunella vulgaris. And heal all is one that grows in sunny locations. It seems to grow on lawns, and it's really low growing. It's just a few inches tall, not more than 3 or 4 inches. And if it's growing in like a wooded area, it's always going to work its way to a sunny patch. So you will probably find it growing on your lawn somewhere, or a lawn of somebody you know. And it's got a lot of interesting properties in terms of medicine that I think are really good. Some of my favorite things are it helps clear the liver and gallbladder heat, which is very common in people. A lot of times the liver gets hot, it sounds weird, but an herbalist is always checking different types of imbalances in the body. It might be too hot, it might be too cold, it might be too dry or too wet. And you just have to find herbs that balance that to bring it back to its homeostasis. And so self-heal is used for liver and gallbladder heat, which is very common these days. It's also used for sore throats and all kinds of bleeding. It has a special affinity to the mouth and throat region. And if you look at the picture right down below, it almost looks like the esophagus or the trachea of somebody. And so that is a region that it does have a special affinity to in the body. Self-heal is antiviral. It's an astringent, which means it's tightening and toning. If your body has too many fluids in, it just tones and tightens that. Diuretic. A diuretic is something that will reduce excess fluid in the body too. It's known as an immunomodulator, which is very important because these days so many people like have an autoimmune condition where their immune system is overactive. It's crazy. It's just really going too active, too fast, and it modulates it. It brings it down if it's too overactive. Or if your immune system is not strong enough, it boosts it up. So a modulator just balances it to where it needs to be. A refrigerant means it's cooling. So as it clears the heat from the liver or gallbladder, it cools it down and it balances it. So that is a little bit about self-heal. So I'm going to move on to the next plant, which is one of my favorites in the springtime, wild violet. And I think almost anybody can identify this plant. It's definitely distinctive in identification. Violet is really a fun one, and it has a short window that you can find it blooming. So when you do find it, you want to make sure you use it. And you can do all kinds of things for this plant. You can just pick the little beautiful purple blossoms and you can eat them. You can put them in salads. They're really fun to do. You can use them as garnish. And if you want to do something fun, you can take those little purple flowers and put them in ice cube trays and add water and make it really fun for punches and drinks that you serve for your family or friends. Now, from a medicinal standpoint, you can use violet for working on the lymphatic system. It's really, really good for working on a hot, inflamed type of lymphatic system where the lymph nodes are kind of swollen and stuff. It's cooling, it's moistening. The leaves also work as a nice blood cleanser. And I've had a lot of work with clients that have had like lung kinds of things, or they start to get a cold or some kind of lung infection. Violet leaves are really, really effective for clearing that up as well. The other thing that you can do with the leaves that's nice is just pick them and put them in salads. They're very tasty And they just make a nice green that you can mix to a lot of other things that you're doing. So when you run across violets, you might not just find the purple ones. You might find different shades of blue to yellow or white, and they're all edible. They can all be used interchangeably. So definitely take advantage of the wild violet, because that is just a really fun one. The next one that I want to talk about is garden sage. This is a very common one, Salvia officinalis. And the word salvia means to heal or savior. And so it has been used all throughout history for lots of healing and important things. It's a really, really good herb for digestion. It helps the body break down fats and oils. And it also, interestingly enough, it was used before they had refrigeration to preserve the meats and stuff. And so it's very antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, and all of that. And so that is, one of the reasons why we use it as a seasoning for meats. It's very common for turkey, to season your Thanksgiving turkey with sage. And it just really helps with breaking down that fat that you get in your diet. Besides that, it's very good for circulation. It has cardiovascular and circulatory benefits. One of my absolute favorite things for sage is as a sore throat remedy. If you make a sage tea, or even if you make it into a tincture that we talked about, it works really good as a sore throat remedy. If you use it at the onset of a cold or flu, it oftentimes just kind of stops it dead in its tracks as well. And another thing that sage is really well known for is how it regulates water balance in the body. So it is one of those modulators too. So if you have too many fluids, it gets rid of them. If you don't have enough, it helps balance them back. So it might be really helpful for night sweats or hot flashes. A lot of times people who have those hormonal hot flashes often use sage to help regulate that. And it's not just for women, it's also really good for men too. And on top of that, it's a really good remedy for the elderly. They always talk about, oh, the sage, the wise. And this is where that statement came from. And if you look closely at the leaf of the sage leaf, it looks all wrinkled and, like an old person's skin. So that's where that plant signature comes into play. So this is a simple plant you can grow in your garden, and there's just a ton of uses for it. It also makes a really great tasting tea with fresh lemon juice and a little bit of honey. And so here we have cayenne pepper, capsium. This is a member of the nightshade family, but cayenne pepper has a ton of uses as well. It helps normalize and strengthen the cardiovascular system. It's a really, really well-known heart tonic. It helps with circulation. It helps regulate blood flow. It can even stop bleeding. And when I was first learning about herbs, I thought, cayenne pepper stopping bleeding. So one time I had gotten cut with a knife when I was in the kitchen, and I thought, well, I'm going to just see if this is true. So I took out some cayenne pepper from my kitchen cupboard and I sprinkled it directly on my cut. First of all, I thought, oh, this is really going to hurt, but I got to try it out. It didn't hurt at all. And I was really amazed at how fast it just stopped the bleeding right away. So you have all kinds of remedies inside your kitchen cupboard that you might not even know about. Cayenne pepper, because it's so hot and spicy, it can stimulate digestion. And it can be also really helpful for respiratory conditions. So don't forget about the simple things that you have in your kitchen cupboard that you can use as herbal medicine too. Just a dash of cayenne pepper in recipes really can add that little bit to helping get some of the, the different types of things our body needs. Okay, So here is yarrow. Now yarrow is, the Latin name is Achillea millefolium. And the Achillea comes from Achilles, the Greek leader of the Trojan War, who used yarrow to help heal battle wounds. And the millefolium refers to all of those little tiny leaves. You see a leaf that has all of this. So this is one leaf. It's not a leaflet, it's a leaf, and it's just cut, 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 cut down to the vein. And that is where the name comes from. It's a wonderful first aid plant, probably the all-time best first aid plant that's out there. It was used in the Civil War, and the soldiers called it woundwort because it was so useful to help heal the battle wounds. They would just find the plant growing where they were fighting, and they would pack it into wounds, and it would have this incredible ability to bring out any of the bacteria. It's antibacterial, it's antimicrobial, and it also immediately takes away the pain from an injury. And I've seen firsthand how this works multiple times. It's also incredibly anti-inflammatory. Now, it's perfectly safe to use on open wounds. You can even use just a plain old leaf, or crush up a flower or leaf, whatever, and just apply it directly to a wound on that's known as like a poultice, or you can use an oil or a salve. It has a reputation of being able to stop nosebleeds, gushing wounds where you're bleeding and bleeding, or cuts to the bone. This is just really your all-time best blood remedy that you can use. Now, besides those external uses, you can use it internally. You can use it internally for digestion because it's got this bitter taste to it. It's almost got a medicinal taste. It's great for breaking up like congealed blood, and it can relieve pain and cramps. Interestingly enough, this plant also provides electromagnetic protection from like radiation, high frequency EMFs, and x-rays. So oftentimes if some of my clients come in and they're going to have an x-ray, maybe a dental x-ray or something like that, I will have them afterwards maybe even before, take a little bit of yarrow to prevent, that stain in the body. And then it's also known as a really great antiseptic, promotes any healing of bruises and wounds. Oftentimes it might be useful with blood pressure issues, good for hemorrhoids, veins, also good for like flus and fevers. It really has a ton of uses. So this is one of my all-time favorite herbs that I always reach to. It's definitely in my top 5 herbs that I would use. Then we have chamomile. Now, many of you are familiar with chamomile. Maybe you've had chamomile tea. There are 2 different varieties. There's the Roman, which is a perennial, and the German, which is an annual. But the annual one, the German chamomile, it reseeds itself. So once you've got it growing in a plant or garden area, you'll probably have it coming back year after year. And so some people do actually have slight allergies to this plant because it can be a little bit irritating, but not very many people. But I have run across a few people that are allergic to chamomile. And this is really known as a really great remedy for children, actually children of all ages. It's a very relaxing tonic. It can help make you sleepy. It can aid in digestion, get rid of gas and bloating. Really, really great for when you may have a tummy ache, children with the earache, intermittent fevers. I also have used and have my clients use chamomile tea bags for pink eye. So it's really good for that because it's so antimicrobial. It's a really good way to clear up pink eye. Good for colds and flus, lots of pain relieving properties. So you'll find it oftentimes maybe in salves as well. And it's just a gentle sedative, especially if somebody is nervous or irritable. Good for hyperactivities and people that are difficult to please, whether they're cranky children or adults. So let's move on to nettle. And this is the last herb that I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about some teas and other preparations. So stinging nettle. This is a really great herb too, one of my top 5 and favorite herbs. You can use it either cooked or dried. Once it's dried, those stinging properties that give you that nettle rash will be destroyed, and it's completely safe to use in cooking after you boil it for or cook it for 5 to 7 minutes. Those stinging properties are also eliminated. So it makes a wonderful tea. It makes an amazing nettle soup. If you're looking for a delicious springtime soup, on the website lambshop.com, we've got a really great recipe on the blog for yummy nettle soup. So I really highly recommend trying that if you've never done that. We'll do that in our cooking classes too for the Wild Foods workshop. And it's loaded with all kinds of nutrients: protein, iron, magnesium, calcium, boron. So if you're going to have a herb that's just loaded with nutrients, nettle is the one for you. So it supports really all parts of the body. It strengthens the whole body. It's known as a good springtime tonic for damp and cold conditions. A general detoxifier, really can help boost up iron levels for anemia. It is definitely one of the kidney herbs that you use for all kinds of kidney functions. It's very useful for somebody who might have gout because it breaks up the uric acid crystals that actually cause the gout. I've worked with that multiple times with different clients, and it clears it up right away. Allergies, hay fever, because it naturally has quercetin in. So this is a go-to remedy if you have springtime allergies or hay fever. Good for the runny eyes and nose. And because it's loaded with so many nutrients, it's good for the teeth and bones and hair. So nettle is a really good herb that you should get to know. All right, so the next slide here is some herbal teas. And I wanted to tell you about a couple of things that, pieces that you can go home with and things that you can start using right away. So the first recipe that I have is bay leaf tea. And practically everybody has bay leaves in their cupboard that you probably never use, maybe only for soups and stews. And so a really, really simple tea that's very tasty is 2 large bay leaves. Just put them in a teacup. Something like this, you put them in your teacup, and just pour your hot water over that, let it steep for about 10 or 15 minutes. And it's a really great way to improve digestion. It might help with insomnia. It promotes heart health, reduces stress, and it's good for the immune system. So it's a really simple tea that you can make very quickly and get some medicinal benefits from. Another favorite tea that I love to do, and I find this fun, is pine needle tea. So you can go out to your backyard, pick some pine needles. They can be these long, like spruce or white pine or Norway pine, or you can even use spruce tips from blue spruce or Colorado spruce trees, and pick some of those, about 1/2 cup to 3 cups of water. And try to look for the young, the new growth, and that's going to be loaded with vitamin C. It strengthens your immune system too, and it's good for cardiovascular health, a really fun tea. I love it because it's loaded with vitamin C, and it also helps a lot with the respiratory system. And another really, really easy tea is getting some fresh ginger root, chop it up in little pieces, put some hot water over there, and then let it steep for a little bit, add a little lemon juice and honey if you like it sweeter. Again, another really good one for boosting your immune system. It also helps with circulation, helps with digestion, promotes weight loss, does a ton of things. It's a really great tea as well. So let's look into another herbal preparation that you can make very easily. And these are herbal vinegars and honeys. And in herbal vinegar, it's just you're using like raw apple cider vinegar with the mother in, and then you add some fresh herbs. And here's a simple recipe. 2 cups of vinegar to a cup of fresh herbs or a half a cup of dried herbs. And you just let that infuse for at least a couple weeks, and then you can use that for salad dressings. You can use it for just adding to like a little bit of vinegar water if you like to drink that. About a teaspoon per cup is a great plenty of vinegar per cup of water if you drink it for medicinal purposes. And if you are doing, like say you're going to just do like an infused herbal honey, you use 1 to 2 tablespoons of the dried herb, and about the same for the fresh herbs to a cup of raw honey. And you just put the herbs in the honey and you let them sit probably for more like 6 weeks. And an example of one that would be really useful is if you take some thyme and you chop that up and you put that in your honey, and that would be a really good one for like colds and sore throats and respiratory things. So that's just a couple simple ideas you can use. Now, what I have here is lemon balm. I don't know if you're familiar with lemon balm, but this is a really good one that you can use in both the herbal vinegars and the honeys. Lemon balm is Melissa officinalis, and it's a really well-known garden perennial. I love lemon balm. It's really my favorite remedy for people that have anxiety and panic attacks. Really, really great for insomnia. Also cardiovascular support, but it also calms and soothes a nervous stomach. And I also use lemon balm if there's like cold sores or viral issues. It might be really good for shingles as well. Good immune support. So let's move on. What I wanted to tell you is that, you know, if you find this information really interesting, and we just touched on 10 herbs, there are a ton of other resources out there. On our website, lambshop.com, we feature some herbs on the blog, so you can look for more information there. But I also do these little card sets. I'll just pull one out here to show you. So when I first started studying herbs, I found myself looking through books after books. I was looking through 20 to 30 books and to find the information I needed. And so I started compiling information, and I wanted to get it in a really short, easy to find source. And so I came up with the idea of making these card sets. And that way I could have information at my fingertips. I could go outside and take these little card sets with me to try to figure out, you know, what I was doing. And this was a really helpful tool for me. And so I've created 4 different sets. One's on garden medicine, one's on how to make different preparation, one is on nature's medicine, is like plants in your backyard, and talks about 45 different remedies out there that you can make and use for medicinal purposes. And then I also did one on wild edible plants, and that one has recipes. So if this is something you're interested in, I know we just touched on a few of the plants, and if you want to learn more, this is a good source for you to start looking at things. You can pick them up here in the shop. We have them online. And we also, with these times, we're doing the curbside pickup. So I just wanted to, make you aware of that there's a lot more information that we didn't have a chance to get to. I see it's a little after 7:30, so I'm going to wrap this up. I did want to tell you about this herbal community that I do a ton of herbal classes too. And I've been doing Become a Home Herbalist. And this is a couple pictures of the graduates. We have a new class coming up that's starting in 2020. We had to postpone it. And so if this is something you're interested in, there's still time to register. We're not starting our first class until May 19th. And we're going to make up the classes that we missed. And it's a really fun way to do some hands-on. We go out and collect things. You end up with, if going through this course, you can make over 50 different herbal preparations that you can have and use for your own family and friends. So I wanted to let you know about that if that was something you're interested in. And then coming up too, we have a wild foods foraging series. It's a mini advanced course. There are 3 different classes. They're 2.5 hours each. And we're going to go out and collect different wild foods. We're going to make it into food and we're going to be eating it. And so you're going to be able to explore all kinds of wild plants that you can eat, and you're going to get really comfortable, so you know that you're getting what you're supposed to out there, because sometimes if you pick the wrong thing, it could be really dangerous. So you want to make sure that you work with an experienced person when picking your wild foods. So with that, I wanted to see if we have any questions here. So I'm going to check and see what we have. So one of the questions was, if the lawn was sprayed, how long would you wait before you would pick them for tea? So I would say you need to wait at least 3 years, because depending on what it's sprayed with, some of these things do not leave the soil actually forever. Roundup has glyphosate in the stuff that it stays there forever. But it doesn't have to be from your lawn. There's a lot of places where some of this stuff grows naturally. Talk to your neighbors and your friends, and there's a lot of other places that you can go to that haven't been sprayed. So that's one of the things. You don't want to be eating the chemicals. So make sure you do avoid anything that has had some chemical treatments on. So another question that has come in, would any of these herbs work on COVID-19? Oh, wow. Yeah, so that's a whole other thing that, yes, there are amazing herbs. Now, the ones that we talked about today, violet leaves has been useful to get the lymphatics going, but there's some other really good ones that you definitely want to use as a preventative, like astragalus root and elderberry. Now, if you start manifesting symptoms, there are specific herbs that you need to use at different stages. You want to use something to clear your lungs, and there's a lot of different things. If that's something that you are working with, or you're kind of dealing with, I would suggest calling maybe and setting up a specific consultation for that, because there's definitely herbs, there's definitely nutraceutical supplements that are very, very helpful, vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc. So there's a lot of things that are very, very helpful for this before it gets to a serious condition. So we have another question here. How much is the course? So the course for the Home Herbalist course, now that's like a 9-month program. And the total for that is $975. And it is a full course. I mean, you definitely go away from there feeling confident, knowing how to use stuff. We do have 3 different levels. We have level 1, level 2, and 3 on that. Each level is different. There's at your base one where you take level 1 is the longest. Level 2 and 3 are short times. And so the next question coming in is, if you have a nightshade allergy, would fire cider work without cayenne pepper? Well, I can tell you firsthand, I know the answer to that because I personally have a nightshade allergy. I cannot tolerate tomatoes, green peppers or red peppers, but honestly, I can do cayenne peppers. So it will depend on your personal allergy. I can tolerate potatoes, which are in the nightshade family, but I can't tolerate eggplant. So it all depends on you personally, but I can easily handle that. Okay, the next question is tinnitus tied to dehydration? That's a good question. I think there probably is a connection to that. There are so many different factors with tinnitus that it's worth seeing if there is a connection with that, because it could be possible. And one of the things that you can tell as a clinical herbalist, if there is a connection between the dehydration, by looking at the tongue of an individual, you can see if there's dry tissue states indicating that there's some dehydration things going on. And then too, with dehydration, you can see how your skin responds to, how the elasticity, how fast it's going to snap back. So there are a lot of factors that might be included. Sometimes it might be tied in with one individual, sometimes it might not. So each person is going to be different, and it's really hard to give you a blanket answer on that. So I think that's it for questions. Again, thank you so much for coming on and listening to this. Give us some feedback. Tell us if you want to hear more of these. I'd be happy to put more of these together during this time. Come and visit us at the Lamb Shop. We are open for regular business hours. We are an essential business. Like us on Facebook. Check out our website. We are here to share all we can about herbal medicine. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.